അല്ലാണ്ട് ലൈവ് ഒക്കെ ആയിട്ടുണ്ട്. പിള്ളേർക്ക് ശരിക്കും ലൈവ് കുറവാണ്, വാട്സപ്പിൽ കുറവാണ്, അതുകൊണ്ട് Anna, it's better we can start now.
Okay, Father. Am I audible?
Yes, Anna.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so we're going to start the session. Good evening, everyone. I am really and genuinely happy to welcome all of you to this Children's Day special webinar, Shielding Innocent Steps Amidst the Adverse Role of a Social Worker, organized by the Department of Social Work, St. Albert's College, Autonomous Ernakulam. Today, we are celebrating two very important events in India. First is Deepavali, the festival of lights. The second is Children's Day, a day when we celebrate the upcoming generation of the world, a day when we celebrate innocence, an innocence that is to be nurtured through love and care and needs to be protected against the growing adversities in the society. And this occasion seems very apt to address the various issues confronted by different children across the country, and how we, not only as social workers, but as ordinary human beings, can bring light to the dark lives of these kids. And to enlighten us with the same, we are blessed to have as the resource person of this event Dr. Ninad Jhalla, Principal and Development Consultant of Anand Institute of Social Work, Anand, Gujarat. We welcome you, sir, and on the behalf of my college and we wish you a very happy Deepavali and Sal Mubarak in advance.
Thanks a lot, Hannah. Indeed, it's a pleasure for me to be here with all of you. And as you rightly remarked, two important days in the offing. The Deepavali, as you said very rightly, and the Children's Day. And interestingly, this happens to be the 31st anniversary of the Convention on Child Rights. And this makes it all the more interesting for all of us into the development sector and anyone who is concerned with the child rights, the child issues, and the child problems, because the theme which the United Nations has given for this year is investing in our future means investing in our children. And precisely, my friends, the problem starts from there because we never invest in our children, we only do the spending. And when you
Yes.
spend, it is always a loss or a profit situation. In an investment, there has to be a return. So thanks a lot for sharing your views. And at the outset, I thank you and Father Anish for roping me in. And in absentia, I would also like to thank Father Thomas Nadakalan from the Diocese of Rajkot for helping us connect. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome, sir. So now we'll be presenting the screen. Just a sec.
Yeah. Is the presentation visible now?
Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah. Now you're audible. Now
Oh,
you're
I'm so sorry. Okay, so Today we have with us Mr. Ninad Jhala, and he's a very erudite personality with an impressive professional and academic record of 41 paper presentations at national and international seminars. He has published 34 articles, 23 projects, and 7 books, along with 18 years of field experience and academia. He is closely linked with various social work programs from prestigious institutes like IGNOU, BSSS Bhopal, TMV Pune, and various other universities in India, along with having commendations from Medical Education Collaborative in the US. These achievements are just a few to mention out of all that he has accomplished. Thank you, sir, for so readily accepting our invite, and I'm sure that all the participants present here today would have their knowledge base greatly enriched through your session. Next, I would like to also welcome Father Jolly John Odatakal, Head of the Department of Social Work, St. Albert's College, and the faculties of the department who are here with us. And lastly, but as much importantly, all the participants who belong to various walks of life and have joined with us to partake in this webinar. I cordially welcome you all to this meet. Now, before we further delve into the session, let us invoke the blessings of Lord Almighty, who gave us this wonderful opportunity. And to do so, I invite Malavika KS.
ഈശ്വരാനീയില്ല എങ്കിലേ ഞാനില്ല ജീവജാലങ്ങളിതൊന്നുമില്ല ഈ ലോകശ്വാസനിശ്വാസങ്ങളില്ല സൂര്യനും ചന്ദ്രനുമില്ല ഭൂമിയിൽ സ്നേഹത്തിൻ സ്പന്ദനമില്ല ആരിലും ഞങ്ങൾക്കുയിരിലും എന്നും നിറഞ്ഞ ദീപം തെളിയണമേ പകലിലും കൂരിരുളിലും നിൻ കൈകൾ തുണയായിരിക്കണമേ ദൈവമേ തുണയായിരിക്കണമേ ഈശ്വരാനീയില്ല എങ്കിലേ ഞാനില്ല ജീവജാലങ്ങളിതൊന്നുമില്ല ഈ ലോകശ്വാസനിശ്വാസങ്ങളില്ല സൂര്യനും ചന്ദ്രനുമില്ല ഭൂമിയിൽ സ്നേഹത്തിൻ സ്പന്ദനമില്ല ഭൂമിയിൽ സ്നേഹത്തിൻ സ്പന്ദനമില്ല.
Thank you, Malavika. Now, moving on towards the session, I would like to call upon Chantal Merrill Michael for the welcome address.
Good evening to one and all present here. I'm glad to have got the opportunity to be presenting the welcome speech before an esteemed personality. Before we begin this session, I'd like to express gratitude to all the individuals who are sincerely committed to making this event successful. As part of Children's Day Special, the webinar, Shielding Innocent Steps Amidst the Adverse Role of a Social Worker, is organized by the Department of Social Work of St. Albert's College. I'd like to welcome our speaker for the session, Dr. Ninad Jalal. He is the principal and development consultant of Anand Institute of Social Work, Anand, Gujarat. He has consulted various prominent organizations and institutes such as UNICEF, WHO, Jan Vikas City Foundation. He is an ILO recognized master trainer on elimination of child labor. He has worked extensively on field of psychiatric social work, human resource management, and human rights issues. We truly believe that our speaker will immensely impact us with this session. I'd like to welcome Father Jolly John Odatakal, HOD of Social Work Department of St. Albert's College. I'd also like to welcome our dear teachers as well. Welcome all the participants. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, Chantal. Now, we have a short video with us, which was shooted by our first year MSW students of St. Albert's College, which we will be sharing with you all now.
Managing your projects should feel more like this. That's why you need ClickUp. With ClickUp, when
ജീവിതത്തിൽ വിജയിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നവരാണല്ലേ നമ്മളെല്ലാവരും. അതിനുവേണ്ടി ചിലപ്പോഴൊക്കെ ചില കൈകൾ നമ്മുടെ മുമ്പിലേക്ക് നീണ്ടി വരും. ആ വിരൽത്തുമ്പിനായി കാത്തിരിക്കുന്ന ഒരുപാട് കുട്ടികൾ നമ്മുടെ ചുറ്റിലുമുണ്ട്. നമുക്ക് നീട്ടാം അവർക്കായി വിജയത്തിന്റെ, സന്തോഷത്തിന്റെ, സമാധാനത്തിന്റെ ഒരു പുൻതിരിവട്ടം. Now, to just speak a few words about the short film, I invite Gracia P. Joshi.
Good evening, everyone. The short film that you just saw is just a short representation of what actually happens in the lives of thousands of children. Many of them live in unfavorable conditions with no access to basic amenities of life, who are forced to work for a livelihood at an age when they should be able to access education. We wait for people to help others instead of taking a step ourselves. One doesn't need to be a superhero to make a difference in others' life. Just a small gesture is also enough. Instead of being content in our sphere of life, we should reach out to these innocent lives that are in need. If everyone starts to extend a helping hand towards another, the utopian world of complete perfection won't be an idea far beyond our reach.
Thank you, Gracia. Now, I invite Dr. Nina Jhala to begin his session that we so anticipated. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Indeed, this was a very touchy video that had come up. And at the outset, I must congratulate all who were behind the preparation of this short film. Not only from the context of making the film, but also from the context of the entire scenario which is to be shared widely amongst the population, so that basic awareness pertaining to the issues and problems of children is raised. I believe is the screen visible? Is the presentation visible now? Can someone please share that?
Yes, sir, it is.
Great. So, as has been already shared, that the topic for the day, rather for the evening, is shielding the innocent steps amidst the adverse, the role of a social worker. I would definitely congratulate St. Albert's College, Kochi, for taking up this topic for the discussion, especially for the people involved into social work and the development sector, and for the rest of the others even. This is a personal matter of pride for me to be associated here today, because one of my mentors, Dr. John Manacheri, has also been one of the alumni of the St. Albert's system. So with that positive note, I begin the session. Generally, when we are asked about who a child is, the general understanding which most of us have is a person from 0 to 18 years. Now, with this particular definition, there are a few issues that we need to look at. The first is that this definition has come quite late, and prior to that, there have been various connotations of the term child. At some places, the child is culturally understood as a person below the age of 14, or in some laws, it is being said below 16. Somewhere it is said 18. If you look at the right to franchisee, right to vote, it is 18 and 21. Now, in addition to that, the question that comes to our mind as social work professionals is whether it is 18 years old or 18 years young. And what about those who are not yet born, the prenatal period, and of all categories? So again, here, when we say categories, this is primarily for a legal aspect, whereas in social work, are we not looking at equity or equality here? Because the definition itself says of all categories. But for the purpose of our basic understanding of the problems, issues, and the role which a social work professional has to perform, for this session, we will understand a child as an individual, as a human being between 0 to 18 years old. Now, with that basic context, the reason why this particular interest in the child rights and child issues has been generated lately strong enough is the implementation of ICPS in our country. ICPS is Integrated Child Protection Scheme. And this basically is a scheme sponsored centrally by UNICEF and managed by either the Department of Women and Child Development or Department of Social Welfare and Social Defense in various states of the country. Now, this came because India, being a signatory to the Convention of Child Rights, it had become our responsibility as a country to implement the provisions of child rights constitutionally, as human rights, as well as legally. Now, this renewed interest, I'm repeating the word renewed interest in child rights, in child issues, in child protection, in child welfare. So that is the reason behind that is the ICPS, Integrated Child Protection Scheme. The objective of this scheme is to create a system that will effectively and efficiently protect the best interests and rights of the children. Now, this objective is something which we need to look at critically as social workers. Who decides what is in the best interest of the child and what are the rights of the children? Because it is these rights of the child which are directly related to, or which are the answers to the issues which the children are facing. The question here then is that, was the system that was in existence till now not effective or not efficient, or are we trying to build a more efficient or more effective system, or the system did not exist at all? These are questions which are critical and yet unanswered. The another objective of this ICPS, Integrated Child Protection Scheme, is to contribute to the well-being of the children in difficult circumstances and to reduce their vulnerabilities. Now, here also we need to look at that it talks about contribution to the well-being of the children. That means there is a inherent assumption that there is something which is not in or not being contributed appropriately. And only for the child in difficult circumstances or for all the children? What are we looking at? And reduction of the vulnerabilities. So we are here assuming, or rather pre-assuming, that the children are vulnerable. So we'll try to understand today what are those issues, how we can deal with them, and what is the role of a social work professional in this entire scenario. Is this clear? Am I making sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. In the mid, whenever I ask a question, I have a request that at least one of all the participants need to respond, so that I know that you are at least listening. Well, so when we look at the rights of the child, these four happen to be the core rights of a child. Now, when we say rights of the child, there are four rights which we are talking about, and most of the issues pertaining to the child rights, they are revolving around these. And the first is the group of rights which we consider as right to survival. The second is the group of rights which talks about the right to protection. So once the child is born, the child has to grow and develop. That is the survival aspect. Once the child is born, once the child grows and develops, the child becomes vulnerable because of factors outside his or her own control, because of the environment, because of various socio-economic, political, religious, peer groups, media, government, laws, all different kind of aspects, and therefore is in need of protection. Once you protect a child, the question comes of growth and development both. And as in social work, we already know that we are looking at growth and development as two concepts, growth being more of the physiological growth, whereas development being more of psychosocial. So once you protect somebody, we need to give them the ample of open-ended opportunities for development. And for development, the final group of rights which we are looking at is participation. Without participation, nothing can exist. And this applies to our session here also. So, do all the members here who are participating agree to participate mutually in this process of learning? Say yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. So, this is not going to be a one-way dialogue, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, great. That's very nice. Now, if you look at this pic which is there on the screen, you will find that there is the word child which is written, where this I happens to catch your attention. How many of we believe that we are all still children? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Are we still children? Or we
Yes,
are
sir.
not children?
No.
See, if I'm going to do a poll and we are almost 64 of us present here, how many of us consider our own selves to be child?
No, sir.
None of us.
I'm not considering myself
So
as a child.
there is a child in every one of us, I feel.
Yes, fine. And if we look at the Holy Bible and the preachings of all our religious texts, are we not the children of God?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Do we agree to that, all of us,
Yes,
unanimously?
yes,
Yes, sir.
yes.
Yes, sir.
If we are children of the God, then are our rights subject to protection, survival, participation, and development?
Yes, sir.
Very nice.
Yes, sir.
So we also do agree that there is some system, some mechanism, some people or some parties or somebody, maybe we name them, we may not name them, but there is something that is happening which is against our rights as a child, or which is harming the rights of the child.
Yeah.
And therefore, we all do agree that the children are vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And if children are vulnerable, whose role is to protect them from being exploited or from becoming vulnerable? Whose role it is? My role? Role of each one of us. This role is, my friends, not confined to a single individual. It is the role of each one of us. And therefore, if you look at the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the UNCRC, these are the basic sets of rights around which major issues, major problems of the children are centered. The first is right to grow up, the right to life, and right to culture. Now, what are the issues associated with that? Right to grow up, right to life, and right to culture. Starting from the birth, I have a very simple question to ask to all present here, and I want each one of you to answer. This is concerning your own birth. Was your birth your decision? I'm repeating the question. Was your birth your decision?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
No, sir.
Very right. In fact, our own birth has never been our decision. It cannot be. Now, if our own birth cannot be our decision, don't you think that child right from before the birth is vulnerable? And it is at that point where we must understand that not only the right to grow up, but right to birth happens to be associated with the child. Once you are born, then the question of growth and development comes. So, getting birth in a safe environment or institutionalized deliveries, which is one of the objectives of the healthcare system also, that happens to be important here, where majority of the people not having born in institutional setups suffer from several diseases and are moving away or have been moved away or have not been provided with the facilities of vaccination. So right to health of the child also becomes an issue. Then the second one is right to grow up with family and community. And we know all that daily in our country, and why in our country, in across the world, there are several children who are thrown away. You will find children thrown away in garbage cans, or maybe you can find it from the roads, or you can find them in the rivers or on the beaches, or at populated places or at scarce places, anywhere. Now, if such children are denied their family, their socialization will not happen. And if the socialization is improper, naturally they would turn to be more inclined towards crime. So do we need our society to be a crime-free society? Then definitely the right to grow up with family and community has to be preserved. Then comes the right to free from discrimination. Now, this right which we are looking at, freedom from discrimination, is something which I believe in India is still a far-fetched dream. I need to ask each one of you, have you ever been discriminated? Has discrimination taken place with any one of you?
No.
No, sir.
I must say that irrespective of our status, irrespective of our age, irrespective of our role, at some point of time, some sort of discrimination has essentially happened with us. The form of discrimination, the type of discrimination may be too small. Say, for example, right now we are undergoing, in this session, right now we are undergoing a discrimination. Can you tell me that? What? The discrimination is that I am allowed to speak, you are not allowed to speak as frequently as me. A type of discrimination. Now, whether that is positive or negative, I'm not asking that. But there is a discrimination that happens. It can be subtle, it can be severe. And this essentially has got a direct linkage with the right to life of the child. You discriminate a child, you don't provide them the education, you don't provide them a good family, you put them to child labor, and you don't put your child to child labor, then it is discrimination. Freedom from family violence and child abuse. Okay, how many of you have been to Goa? Can anyone tell me? You know the place, a very beautiful beach and all, Goa?
Yes, sir. I have been to Goa.
Oh, good. And I'm pretty sure you must have seen several of the movies where Goa has been depicted. Oh, right, starting from Sagar to Amitabh Bachchan and several. You know what is Goa famous for?
Beach.
Beach.
Goa is famous for beaches, yes, and
Alcohol.
alcohol, yes,
Parties.
yes, but
Churches.
churches, yes. There's a very pristine church there. But does anyone of you know that Goa on the map of human rights is considered as a pedophilia paradise?
Ah,
A place where
yes.
maximum child trafficking, child sexual abuse takes place.
Correct.
And we take pride that Goa is one of the best beaches of the world. Then comes right to education. Now, this is something which in our country, though there has been the Right to Education Act that has come, no, there is the right to free and compulsory education, which is not only a constitutional right, a fundamental right, as well as a human right, a child right, right from the early childhood onwards. But the million-dollar question which we all face, do you know at least one person in your knowledge who has not been given the right to education? Do you know a single person in your contact
Mhm.
or whom you have seen who has been denied the right to education? I am pretty sure that you must have come across that. No, where people have been denied the right to education. If we are 50, 60 people here, 67 people here in this video meet who know 67 others who have been denied the right to education, do you think that this right to education, which is not only a fundamental right, not only a child right, not only a human right, is still easily, securely available to all the children across the globe or even in our own country?
No, no,
No.
sir.
No, sir.
So, don't you feel that this particular right to education is something which we all need to work at, and maybe it's one of our rules? Same way, sorry, the right to physical and mental health. Now, physical and mental health is always a concern, a question for anyone in the sector of child rights, child issues, who is wanting to or trying to work with the children, because starting right from your birth to the child's age completion of 18 years. Okay, I need to ask you one more question. How many, which word, which two words you have heard the most in your education system? Which are the two words which you have heard the most number of times during your education?
Study.
Can anyone tell?
Class. Book.
Sir,
Study.
knowledge.
Study.
No. See, if I tell you,
Exams.
you will be surprised. If I tell you, if you will be surprised.
Money.
Is it money? No. The answer is very simple.
Knowledge.
The two words are keep quiet. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Now you go back to you see, all of us mostly are from the social background. So let me ask you, we say that there should be participatory methodologies. No, right to participation is there, vulnerability is there, equality is there. Now from our own anganwadis, from our own preschool till our masters or graduation, we have been told keep quiet.
Yes.
Now is that not a mental torture to the child? Not allowing the child to participate is a mental torture. We always compare, that child does this thing very excellently, you are not doing. That's a mental torture. And definitely all the children in India are not in good physical health. There is beyond doubt. Most of us, even till date, though may not be in the childhood, may be having anemia, the most common ailment found in the country, the lack of hemoglobin. Now, from the simplest such thing to the most complex of genetical disorders, the child is never taken care of, either because the parent doesn't have that finance or the availability, or maybe any other reason thereof, or maybe the structure or the system is not available. Then another such issue which is faced by the children is the right that is given, right to have a say in your decisions that impact you. Now I need to ask you again, were you asked for a single time when your education was started that do you want to study in this school, this college? No, never.
Yeah.
The decisions are generally taken by the parents, and as has been said in the first slide, in the best interest of the child. So technically it is the parent who considers the best interest of the child and decides on behalf of the child. And thereafter 60, 70 years of independence, we say that we are unable to come up with innovations. We are not having entrepreneurial skills here. We do not have risk taking here. Now, how do we say that when we have never been, as a child, right from our childhood, we have never been involved into the process of decision making? And the fun is that at the age of 18 years and maybe 21 years for boys, you can vote and decide the future of the country. Is this not an issue? Is this not a problem? Then right to nutritious food and clothing, the entire Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I must say. The right to proper housing and right to detention as a last resort. These are certain rights and issues associated with that. Now, if we go further into the entire scenario, we will also understand that the child has got concern in these areas. Primarily, all the problems or the issues of the children you will find in the area of education, in the area of health, in the area of adoption and guardianship, in the area of juvenile justice and the penal laws. You have the contract capacity. There are children who are not strictly speaking child labor, but they are involved into work. And as per the UNICEF's understanding, a child who is not in education is a child labor. The child labor system itself, the child abuse, the technology and internet related abuse, the child pornography being a booming industry across the world. The property and legitimacy issues of the child, the child born out of wedlocks to the child born more than one in a family and having problems over ownership of the properties, the children and their issues during the times of emergency situations, the disasters, whether it is a natural or man-made, or the pandemic situations as of now, the child prostitution, begging, and lack of parental care. These are the primary issues of a child. Now, as a quick exercise, I want you to put in the chat box one issue which you know of pertaining to the child. Please, a quick exercise. One issue or one problem which you know about a child, about the children, in the chat box, or you can unmute and tell me even, not a trouble. Yes, child abuse, sexual abuse, yes. Malavika, I must say that the abuse of a child, it is proven by research that more than 98% of the cases when it is about child sexual abuse, the perpetrator of the abuse, the perpetrator of the rights violation is a person who is known personally to the child. Yes, bullying, very right. Child labor, drug abuse, and pornography, very, very true. Nowadays, this drug abuse is so much increasing, and with the advent of the internet systems, it has come to our note. We did a study recently at our institute, Anand Institute of Social Work, and we found that the generally available over-the-counter unprescribed medicines are being now used as drug by several of the children. Forced labor, very true, Preeti. Violence against children, very right. And this, my friends, seems to be an unending list. Unending list. And therefore, it is a challenge, a huge challenge for all the social work professionals. Yes, street children, mobile gaming like Blue Whales. Oh yes, how many of you have played, by the way, this game called Blue Whale, or that PUBG and all? Anyone who has played themselves?
I didn't play Blue Whale, but have
Yeah.
played PUBG.
See, and then we say that the children should not play. How is it possible? Remember Gandhiji, remember, all our religious leaders, what do they say? Starting from Swami Vivekanand to Lord Jesus, or maybe to Krishna, or to the Islamic leaders, anyone? Non-violence, yes, and practice before you preach. And they did not have access to such issues. Though I'm not saying that the children did not face issues at that point of time. They did face. But the change of technology, the speed of advancement has made us think and consider the problems of children very seriously. Oh, yes, FIMA has come up with the most pressing issue, the child marriage. Let me tell you, my friends, UNICEF has been working a lot in this direction, child marriage, for the prevention of child marriage, and there is an involvement of a lot of community leaders to convince them about their own communities to stop the child marriage. Because when a marriage happens in the Indian context, in the Indian culture, it is not simply a marriage of two individuals. It is a marriage of two families, and the entire culture gets transmitted out of it. Suicide of children, yes, very right. The exam failure, oh my god, this is something which needs to be taken care of. And I'm pretty sure that with your psychiatric social work specialization, you can start as a role, as an innovative practice, and even you can share this with your IQA. So you can start with a child line, no, a phone line for counseling of the children. So these are issues which we are looking at, and therefore, to cater to these issues, to resolve their problems, what we can do is these 6 core items, 6 core interventions. If we as social professionals, if we as development professionals implement these 6 areas: proper education. See, in each of these areas, there is an adjective. Proper education, not education for the sake of education, not literacy. This is about education. And that is why in Sanskrit it is said, Sa Vidya Ya Vimuktaye. The education that liberates, that leads you to a higher platform of understanding, a higher platform of skills. Fresh food and water. So several of the health related issues will be resolved. Provision of safe environment. And safe environment, I mean not only the environment as we understand in the green environment, I'm also talking about the social, economic, and political environment, even the legal environment. Proper provisioning of healthcare. The right to play is a yes, whereas labor is a strict no. And safe and decent shelter, where the issues and problems of rights violation do not happen, do not occur. And in this context, when we look from the legal lens, we find that the children, the children who are or whom we are dealing with, these innocent children, are in an adverse situation because we categorize them into 3: the children who are in contact with the law, the children who are in conflict with the law, and children who are in need of care and protection. Now, who are children in contact with the law? Can anyone tell me, please? Who are children in contact with the law?
Those who committed crime or anything illegal.
Well, they are children in conflict with the law. See, if you break a law, then you are conflicting the law. That is one category. That is right, but that is not in contact with the law. We are saying in contact with the law. A child who is found on the street is in contact with the law. The child has not broken any laws, but is a street child. That requires care and support. So whether the child is a juvenile, or whether the child has committed a crime, or a child is found begging, or a child is found on the railway platform, or a child as shown in the film that you had just shown, all children, they are essentially found in this list, and that is the children in need of care and protection. Children who are in need of care and protection. So any kind of child is always a child in need of care and protection, whether it is the child of the Ambanis or whether it is your and my child. Every child is always in need of care and protection for their own growth and development. Do we agree to this aspect?
Yeah.
Great. The trouble with the children is that we consider children as our target groups. And I'm pretty sure that all of us who are into social work, we have been taught those four systems, client system and change agent system and action system and target system. So children become our targets. In military, target term is used for something else. Target term is used for the board on which shooting is done. Does this articulation make the child vulnerable more? Is it a human rights or a social work oriented articulation? We need to rethink that. Also, when we look at our roles, we come across a few laws which we need to consider. Now, there is the Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act of 1986. There is the PNDT, Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act, which says that the sex determination of a child termination of the pregnancy is illegal. There is Persons with Disabilities Act, Equal Protection of Rights and Full Participation Act of 1996. Excuse me. There is the Child Marriage Prohibition Act of 2006. There is the JJCCP, Juvenile Justice Child Care and Protection Act of 2000. And in the state of Gujarat, we have the JJ Rules 2011. Same way, every state has got its juvenile justice rules where the entire procedure of the juvenile justice and related crimes is taken care of. You have the Right to Education Act of 2009. Then the central government, with the support of the UNICEF, came up with the ICPS, Integrated Child Protection Scheme. And 2011 came with the POCSO Act, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. Imagine the fact that since more than 70 years of independence, and even before that, we have been attempting to secure, protect, promote the rights of the children. Everyone knows that child is being sexually abused. And way back in 2011, the law is framed. Now, this is something which itself requires a lot of critical evaluation, because till now, what we were doing in 2011, and this is almost 10 years down the line, 2020, what has been the conviction rate of the cases under the POCSO, and how the punishment has been given? What is the procedure? Several questions are arising in that reference. I would quote again the Holy Bible, wherein it has been said that, "Come to me, ye, all of you who are tired from carrying heavy loads, and I will give you rest." The Lord says this. And therefore, if you look as child labor as one of the questions, then the answer is humanity minus love and kindness. Watching a child labor is hard, but hard itself is the labor for the child. We never think of that. The child may bend its head for the labor, but we bend our heads because of child labor. We have to mend this subject with the object of humanity. Friends, let me tell you one more thing. No one is born a street child in the real sense of the word. It is the society that we live in, the evils of the systems, of the people who create the systems, that shapes, that puts those children into the street. And therefore comes the role that we need to play. I need one of you to speak the roles that you are seeing on the screen. Can anyone volunteer, please?
Okay. Advocate,
Yeah.
broker,
Okay.
trainer, planner, designer, analyst, manager, evaluator, organizer, mobilizer, negotiator or mediator, developer, collaborator, integrator, coordinator, leader, visionary, director, representative, manager, designer, controller, supervisor, guide, mentor, troubleshooter.
Very nice. And now a very quick exercise. How many of us know these titles of the roles? I see that several of us are into social work. That is why the question is there. Are we aware of the titles of these roles? I'm pretty sure several of us at least know that these are our roles. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. And you know that these are our roles since your first year of graduation in social work. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Because the roles, as per the syllabus, because I'm into academics, I know that the roles of a social work professional are being taught to us right in the first year, probably the first semester.
Yes.
And we all currently who are present here are already beyond our first semester.
Yes, sir.
So we know the roles well. Now, before I explain a few of the roles, I have a very critical question for all of you. How many of you have tried to implement at least one role with the children? See, I'm not asking why you have not tried or whether you have tried or not. I'm just asking how many of you have tried to implement at least one role. Yes, Xavier is saying
sir.
yes, very right.
Yes, sir.
Very good. And that indicates the fact that the implementation of roles is possible. It is a matter of our own willingness to implement those roles. And therefore, as an advocate, we need to do advocacy efforts with the systems, with the government, with different stakeholders related to the protection and promotion of child rights. We need to perform the role of a broker when the rights are at stake and for the provisioning of rights and entitlements to the children. We need to train the people who are involved into the child rights and child issues to be more sensitive towards the issues and problems of the child, and in turn make them enabled to provide for such services that are essential for promoting and protecting the rights of the children. We need to perform the role of a planner and a designer to plan and implement programs, schemes, yojanas, projects from the government, from the corporates, under the CSR, by the NGOs, by educational institutions, by individuals, by district or the block or the state administration, for the welfare of the children, where their involvement and their decision making is a must. And for that, We need to do a critical analysis of the situation by managing what is available at hand. And therefore, we also perform the role of a resource mobilizer. At the end of the program or the project, we evaluate, we reflect back, and try to improvise on that program and the project. We collaborate with different stakeholders so that the service provisioning for the child rights promotion, protection, and securing is done better. We lead the cause. We lead the cause because we are visionaries. We envision a future of the child free from their issues and problems, where each child is securing their rights, not because you are wanting to give the rights, not because that the law says that, but because the child has a right simply by being born as a human being, as has been said also in the original context of human rights definitions. We also represent the children wherever we feel, wherever they feel that their voices are not being heard. And ultimately, we are also performing the role of a troubleshooter. Whenever there's a problem that arises, we spring back to action and we try to resolve the issues and problems of the children. And to do that, a quick update on how we do this particular matrix shows that our entire effort as social work professionals is divided into three domains: the information or the knowledge domain, the attitude domain, and the skill domain. This you can relate directly with the definition, international definition of social work, that as social workers, we are supposed to understand the dynamics of the oppressors, how the people, the mechanisms, the government, the systems, the corporates, how you and me even, how do we try to discriminate or do oppression over the children so that their rights are not realized. Then in terms of attitude, we look at critiquing the ideologies for systemic domination and marginalization of vulnerable groups. We never allow those children to come up on the ladder. And the skill is to obtain democratization skills so that these marginalized populations can empower themselves. Also, we need to analyze the role played by these systems, the stakeholders, in not only promoting and protecting the rights of the children, but also in violating the rights of the children, so that we must have an attitude amongst our own selves that we promote the 7 cardinal values of social work: justice and truth and non-violence and all. And how to do that? By learning various methods and skills of social work, of management, of WLAGs, of CBOs, of NGOs, and n number of skills. I mean, you can look at that, and the list is unending. If you do all, then there is a hope that we might look at a future for the child. And therefore, finally, I would say that I stand for child rights. Do you? Thank you so much for the session and interaction with all of you today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. It was a really illuminating experience for us with all the information that you provided. It has really been helpful, sir, and we hope that we are able to make a positive difference in the lives of our future generation through the points that you just told us. The platform is now open for questions, so please feel free to clear your doubts. If anyone is having a difficulty in the network, they can also use the chat box.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or queries pertaining to your syllabus or any of the materials or anything that you want, feel free to ask. If possible, I will try to help you out.
Sir, hi, this is Preeti. I'm from
Yes.
MSW. So,
Yeah.
as we were speaking about how many of us have visited Goa,
Hmm.
this one memory was just stuck in my head that I saw a few students who were along with their parents and they were selling balloons and small things like that. So
Hmm.
I was just observing, and it seemed like that family was doing this business for a very long time. And
Hmm.
now I was wondering, how come no one is educating the family regarding why they are including their students or like their children also, rather than
Hmm.
sending them to school. So, can you please share your thoughts?
Yeah. See, what happens is that primarily at such places, whenever a child is involved into such an activity, in our country, there are two very important considerations that we need to look at. One is,
Mm,
do we have an alternative system where we can provide them with 2 square meals a day?
mm,
Second is, if they won't do this, what will they do? We talk a lot
yes.
about innovation, and we talk a lot about making new things or new avenues for the children and securing the child rights.
Mm,
But somehow there is a systemic failure on the part of us as professional social workers and on the part of the various mechanisms and machineries existing for the protection and promotion of child rights, that what is visible is not seen, and what
mm,
does not come to your eye is always understood. So that gap between the lines is something which we need to address.
yes. Mm. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
So we have a question in the chat box.
Yeah.
What are the challenges that come by our way when trying to implement initiatives addressing child rights? By Malavika.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, Malvika, the first challenge that comes in our way is our willingness. If we are able to tackle the basic challenge of willingness to work on this issue or on this child rights sector, then rest of the challenges are not actually challenges; they are stepping stones to your success. But yes, I would definitely add to this. There's a lot of political willingness which is not found in our nation. That happens to be the probably the only challenge when you are looking at the implementation level of child rights securing. So, if we are able to manage the political willingness, then there are no other challenges at all. Yeah. Am I answering the query, Malvika? Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, in case there is a child like around the age of 4 to 5 years, and
Mhm.
like you're sending them off to school first, and you're sending them by bus, so you don't know what is going on between the time when they're traveling from the home to their school. So,
Right.
in case you're the parent of the child, what would you tell the child? Would you directly tell them like something? What would you advise them?
Yeah. See, I believe your question comes from a genuine concern, and the concern which you term it as safety. Right? We are talking of the child's safety here, right?
Yeah.
So, safety, my friends, is basically a concept. And when we say safety is a concept, we need to understand it in a very different way. Safety is dependent on two things: one, the environment where we are living in; two, our ability to manage the existing environment. And for sure, because it is a child, it is very difficult for the child to manage the safety which in Indian context, for us as of now, for this discussion, I believe we are looking at only the physical safety, the biological safety. And therefore, when we work about child rights, we also had this one very important point, that provision of safe environment. And therefore, the child has to be made understood right from the beginning about good touch and bad touch, about various readily available mechanisms of support where one can rely and trust upon in cases or in instances of such child abuse or insafety. And definitely you can take help of technology if it is affordable for such parent.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
There's another question.
Yeah, I'm just reading that. A
Oh,
person
yes.
committed a crime at 17 and the court comes to know that the person has committed a crime and the person is of 19. What kind of punishment will be applicable to that person? Oh, yes, yes. This is a very much expected question in several of my sessions when I talk of child rights, and I'm not at all surprised. See, I have got three answers for this question. The first is, you cannot punish a person for a crime or for an action that was committed at a time when there was no law to declare that action as a crime. So if it is 17 years, then it is not the court that comes to know, it is the Juvenile Justice Board. It goes to the JJB. Now, court when comes to know at the age of 19, then the child is no more a juvenile. That is for sure. So the case is transferred from the juvenile court to the regular court, and then the proceedings are done. That is the second answer. The third answer is, this does not happen ever in India, because we have such a kind of complex system that in 3 years no court will ever be able to give the judgment, or no court will ever be able to proceed with the proceedings, and there'll be more than 10 years, 12 years of gap before the case actually comes on board for discussion at the court. So the punishment will primarily depend on two factors. The first is the nature of crime or the nature of action committed. We are not saying it crime because it has not been proven as of now. Secondly, it will also depend a lot on the sensitivity of the legal professionals involved in. I share you one experience of my own self. Uh, luckily, I have been very much involved into the social sensitivity training of the judges and the public prosecutors with the Department of Law and Justice, the Ministry of HRD, across the country at several places where judicial training academy and police training academy is there. And what I found was that the more sensitive the judges, the lawyers become, the more they understand the psyche behind that action, and lesser strict the punishment becomes. And there are alternative ways of resolution. Even you can even go to ADR, alternative dispute resolution, for that. Am I answering the question, Ernest ji?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
I was looking for some other clarification on the web.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
So, are there any other questions left? Okay, so if there are no other questions left, we'll conclude. Thank you, sir, for. Yes, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm Sushma Gautam from Nepal, and currently I'm pursuing my bachelor program at Rajagiri College. And I have one question. Like during this pandemic, we all know that we shouldn't go outside, yeah.
Yeah.
And I see most of the children are addicted to
Mhm.
mobile. Like they are playing video games like that, and this is also concern issue, yeah.
Mhm.
Ah, like I want to know that how can we control our children not to use mobile, or how can we like convince our children
Mhm.
to use mobile in proper way.
Okay. Shushma ji, you are right now connected in this meeting on mobile or on laptop?
On mobile, I
Well,
have no
then you
laptop.
cannot convince. The
Pardon,
answer
please.
is as simple as that. You cannot convince.
Yeah.
See, the dynamics here is that the moment we go to the child to convince and to make the child understand about the use or abuse of these electronic gadgets, the first question that comes is, if you are using, why are you telling me no? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So, first, we as individuals must reduce our screen time. Then we can help them understand that this is not appropriate. So, it's like practice before you preach.
Yes, sir.
Hi, sir. This is Ernest here, sir. Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Can you answer the question that I have asked you with the with the judgment, with the detailed judgment of the Nirbhaya case result? There is a
Uh,
juvenile committed to that crime, right?
uh, which case? Pardon me?
Nirbhaya case, Delhi.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. See, well, this happens to be one of the most famous or maybe infamous cases of the history. And when we look at that, there are a couple of things which we need to understand. See, irrespective of what happened in the court or irrespective of what the judgment was given and how it was given, it is important for us to look at in a very different perspective for this particular case. This Nirbhaya case was an open secret. As of what the law says, that there should be absolute confidentiality that has to be maintained for any such offenses, which number one was not maintained in this case. See, we know about Nirbhaya. You also know about Nirbhaya. Every one of us knows about Nirbhaya. And everyone knows where she was living, what she was doing, what they were doing, the convicted and the affected both. So that is something where the role of a social professional is. Secondly, when the judgment was given, as you rightly remarked that it was a child who committed an offense, and then when the judgment was passed, the person was no more a child, and because of that heinous crime, several amendments to the law were made. And especially with the case of Nirbhaya, what happened was a lot of advocacy that happened. So in such critical cases, advocacy can actually change or affect the judgments. So rather than, what I personally believe is, rather than more about the judgment or the law in place, it was more of a advocacy that was playing the role to get the justice as demanded by the people, rather than the procedural aspect. Or if I use a figure of speech for this entire scenario, the and the figure of speech is there in your name itself. So pardon me, I'm not using it in a negative way, but just to understand, the judges were not earnest enough to provide the judgment earnestly for the entire case.
So we have such loopholes there to escape from the case, right, sir?
Yes, of course, of course. And as social professionals, I very firmly believe that we must know the loopholes. If you have to help somebody, you must know the loopholes. Unless and until we know the loopholes, how will we do the advocacy?
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure.
I guess if there are no other questions, we can conclude the session. Okay. So, sir, I would like to thank you for patiently attending all the questions that were asked during the seminar. And now, as the session comes to a close, I would like to invite Andrea Fernandez to deliver the vote of thanks.
Deliver a vote of thanks for this. First of all, I thank Lord Almighty for occurrence of this session so as to enhance the understanding of all the participants. And next, on the behalf of my college and the entire Department of Social Work, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the speaker of this session. I thank you, Dr. Neena Jhala, alumnus of Anand Institute of Social Work, for sharing with us your extensive knowledge. So, your detailed explanation on ICPS, UNCR, child rights, and different problems faced by children has contributed to the learning of all participants. Thank you, sir. Next, I would like to thank Dr. Nelson Rodriguez, Principal of St. Albert's College, Autonomous, Ernakulam,
for presenting us with this platform. I also express my gratitude towards our Vice Principal, Father John Christopher, and Rosalind Gonzaga ma'am for their encouragement in this program. I would also like to thank Father Jolly John Odathakal, Head of the Department of Social Work, for his help and direction provided in this webinar. I also appreciate all the faculty members of the Department of Social Work, Assistant Professor Dr. Deba Rashid, Assistant Professor Rajamol TR, Assistant Professor Raul Roy, Assistant Professor Benny Wilson, and Assistant Professor Dinu Simon for their assistance. Also, I would like to thank the crew that worked behind the wonderful short film presented, that is Kane, Mahi, Mithun, Anand, Fagin, Mritula, Harikamini, Ashita, Anamika, Jean, Gracia, and Anna. And last but not the least, I thank all the students for making this session a success through their participation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Andrea. And thank you, sir, once again for such a beneficial event and for enhancing our knowledge and the knowledge of all the participants too. I also thank all the participants for the active participation throughout the session. Thank you. The feedback form link is provided in the chat box. Please be sure to fill it to get your e-certificate.
Thanks a lot. I'm sharing the PPT with Ms. Anna. You can take it from her and you can use it the way you like. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.